Awesome. So, dude,
So I like the thighs on your screen.
there we
Your
go.
thigh,
Hell yeah.
the thighs like right below our thing.
DK, man. S tier
Oh
waifu
man.
right there.
Is it possible for me to pop out this other chat? I don't think I can.
Perfection. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm ready.
Dude, finally. We've been playing a little bit of tag here, but it's awesome to finally
Yeah, we have.
get on chat with you.
Yeah.
So, here's
Thank
what I
you,
wanted to
man.
do,
Thanks
man.
for
Like,
inviting me.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Like, you
Oh, hold
have
on.
the
Let me grab a drink.
Oh, go for
Sorry.
it. Go for
Before
it.
we start.
Go for
Sorry.
it. Go for it.
Sorry.
So, Kanon,
Ugh. Yes, sir.
when did you start playing BDO again? Just remind me.
Okay. I actually started playing a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't know when I actually okay. So I technically started playing during the Korean beta test before the
Oh,
game released.
that's like
But
2014.
yeah, but like I can't really say I played. That's just like I technically played because
Yeah.
I tried it, right? Like
Right.
I remember getting to Velia and maybe a little past that, and I was just like, yeah, okay, because it's like my Korean, I can speak Korean fluently, but
Mm-hmm.
I speak it and read and write. Well, I speak it at like I speak it and understand it at like an elementary level, which is really good, right? But
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
like that great. So like you think about it with MMOs, you use a lot of more advanced vocabulary
Sure.
and made up vocab. So it's like very difficult for me to like distinguish certain terms.
Right.
So it just kind of got old. Not to mention I read and write pretty slow. So I was just like, yeah, I'm not really feeling this. And I think I was playing something else at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So technically I started back then, but then I didn't really start playing until later when they released it in Southeast Asia. So it was like
Okay.
one of the latest regions to get it, if not latest.
Right.
So this was I don't know, maybe like a year or so. I can't remember the exact timeline, but maybe like a year at least after they released it in NA.
Mm-hmm.
So I had like that fresh raw experience where um end game you're grinding for like Marcus Shadows and shit like that, right? Like so like I experienced that but just a little bit later.
Yeah.
But I played when they released it in Southeast Asia, and I played it religiously for a while, for like I
Okay.
don't even remember how long, but like a lot. Like I played it a lot, and then I
Nice.
stopped playing. I quit, and then covered other games, became a full-time content creator, and then I've been back for like I don't know, for the past I don't month and a half or so.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been great. It's been great seeing your journey here in NA. And did you start over fresh, by the way? I think I started watching after
Yes.
you made a little bit of progress.
Completely fresh. Yeah,
Nice.
so I played on the C region, and I was like, yeah, if I'm gonna try out BDO, I want to play on the NA region where it's more popular. Not to mention, I live in Korea, and the servers are actually located in the west coast for NA,
Yeah.
and the ping for me is not as bad because
Okay.
yeah, like east ping would be like 200 ping is really bad, but like west
Right.
coast I ping less than 150, like 120 to 150. So it's like, yeah, I mean, fuck, I mean
Yeah.
it's either that or play Southeast Asia where I'm going to be pinging 70 75, and it's like
Okay.
not, I mean there's a difference, but it's not that that big. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's people who play from Australia and they play Sork so they can take advantage of that ping difference. With the
Yeah,
DSig.
exactly.
Dude,
Yeah.
but this is one of the reasons I want to talk to you because you just had that fresh player
Yeah,
experience and
I did.
you're going to be able to tell us with, you know, absolute confidence on your experience and how it's affected you and
Yeah.
that segues into what I wanted to talk to you about was I want to discuss how PA and how BDO can retain more players. What could they change, which isn't too drastic, like nothing,
Right.
not go out and build up a new expansion or anything. I wanted to come up with
Sure.
ideas that what they could do and change pretty easily to help retain players and make the game more accessible in a way.
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it's not the single most important, but I think it's definitely one of the most important things that they need to address because
Mm-hmm.
um I use this reference as an example. I use this reference as an example on occasion, but I compare it to Path of Exile. Like everyone knows, Path of Exile is the gold standard for ARPGs. It
Hmm.
is. It's a fantastic game. And obviously there are a lot of differences, and I'm not saying BDO is the Path of Exile to it, but one of the biggest downsides to Path of Exile, its Achilles heel, is its entry barrier. It's
Right.
very there. It's like it has a stigma that isn't even a stigma to some, but it is to some, which is you need a fucking PhD in the game like to be a master, right? You need a PhD in PoE. Like otherwise you're just going to be, hey, you're going to be following these content creators and these guide makers, the build makers. You're going to follow these guys and just copy paste it.
Right.
But if you want to get to the point where you understand the game and you understand everything, you need a PhD level of knowledge, right? So BDO kind of has that to a certain degree, where it's like there are so many systems in place, but
Hmm.
I think the bigger difference is that unlike PoE, it doesn't take like a critical. It's not as, I mean, there are some, right? Like you've got like damage multipliers, but
Sure.
outside of that, if we're just talking about like systems and content within the game, like bro, like understanding the node system is not that complicated. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's understanding the workers, understanding contribution points. It's not complicated. It's just overwhelming because there's a lot of those systems, right?
Absolutely.
So for like, if so for Path of Exile, if you can get past that initial, oh my gosh, like it's gonna take me so long. Like if you you know what I mean? If you
Yeah.
take the time to actually learn the game, you're hooked, and then you cannot play anything else. And you see that same type of characteristic with BDO players that
Right.
actually spend the time to get past that hump. There are like so many BDO players that are just like, well, I can't. I'll try other games, but I can't move on because there's
Yeah.
nothing as good, like in their opinion, right, with what they're looking
Absolutely.
for. So I think I know that's like a long-winded answer, but I really think that if PA can find a way to streamline the initial experience to be a little less overwhelming, it'll make it'll encourage players to stick around for longer. Like
True.
I just don't see how there's any issue. Like I don't see the downsides to allowing the player to to be fed content and systems slowly and gradually rather than just being thrown into the mix of things.
Right.
And generally that's difficult with MMOs, but with BDO I think it's totally possible because they have season servers. And I've actually voiced this opinion to PA because I went to PA not too long ago,
Hmm.
and big shout outs to even their KR staff. They actually listen to what we have to say, and they want to know. They watch our
Absolutely.
content, even in the West. Like we kind of have that joke in the West saying like they only listen to Korean players, but if you actually talk to the team, and I did, like the KR team, you might actually walk out of that building thinking the opposite. And that's not like, I'm not saying that they 100% listen to us more than them.
Absolutely.
It could be kind of a copium take, but um when I was in there, they asked me the same question. They asked me like what I think, what I had, if I had some suggestions, and they were like writing notes.
Hmm.
And by the way, one of the things I'm not going to take credit for this, but one of the things I was urging them when I did see them, I was like, hey, does it cost you guys anything for drops? And they're like, no. I'm
Thank you
like,
for
you guys,
confirming that.
yeah. And I was like, if it doesn't, then you guys should just do permanent drops for us. Like that would
Yeah.
be huge for your creators. And he was like, and they were like, we've got some things in the works for you guys. We know we're gonna do our best to try and support you guys too. You guys are really important to us. And then fucking month later, however long it was, we had permanent drops, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like I said, like I went and met them, and it was a great meeting. I spent like the whole afternoon with them talking to their team. I was really impressed by their team. And again, I know this could be kind of a copium take, but I was impressed. I was.
Yeah.
And one of the things I told, sorry, it's kind of getting off topic there, but when I did talk to them
No, not at all.
about some of those suggestions that I just made to you for a new player. And one of the ways that I think that they should streamline it, and I even mentioned this on my podcast with Choice and Biceps, and they
Hmm.
were both on board, was utilizing the season servers. So
Yeah.
if you get a new player to come into the game, they're like, make it so that the season servers specifically, or even the novice season servers, but like the
Sure.
season servers specifically, to be very limited in what you actually get.
Right.
You don't get any of the unnecessary items. You get one quest line and one main story quest line only. So it's like the quest line, it literally just takes you through Medea. And then after Medea, the game literally tells you, hey, you can do the quest line in Valencia, Grana, Odie, or Dragon, or you could start working on this new quest line, which is like, or we're going to walk you through the gearing
Right.
enhancement, because that's usually when people do it, right? Like once you
Yeah.
get through Medea, you start working on your gear. So have the quest line take you through the process of upgrading your gear, walking you through that process. And then that whole experience just becomes streamlined way better, because you're not getting overwhelmed with items that you don't need. You're not getting
Absolutely.
overwhelmed with items that you need in the future. You don't have any of that. It's streamlined. And if you don't want that experience because you've already played and you don't want that watered down, then you could just do the quest line on a different server and then have access to it, because the game already filters things, right? The game already has that built-in feature. So
Absolutely.
there's no, like, that's what I think would be the best way to streamline it for new players coming in.
Yeah. And, one thing you said was absolutely true, that the different mechanics in the game and the systems in the game, they're not very complicated, but when you put it all together at the same time and show everyone at
Yeah.
once, they're going to be like, whoa, what's this? Like,
Yeah.
I think they should even like go the approach of limiting content dependent on the region you start at. Like, let's say you start off at
Mm-hmm.
Ancient Stone Chamber, go to Valia. Maybe it only shows you the nodes around there, and then it walks you through how to pick the nodes, get workers and stuff, and all that shebang.
Yeah.
But and then as you move through the quest line to the next hub and the next hub, slowly expand the node network. Because what's the advantage of just giving all of that to them right away? They're not going to be able to use it for a long while. They don't have
Yeah.
the contribution
Yeah.
anyway. So I think, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be a good approach, trying to just help them focus and not be distracted by all the buzz around them. Like, this game has a lot of depth to it, but it's one of those things that you have to be willing to get into it. Like, I know many players who never ever touch life skilling. They're like, I've never gathered. My gathering is still at, beginner. It's like,
Yeah, beginner one.
yeah. So it's like, that's one of the great things about the game. It lets you play the way you want to play. That, okay, you only want to grind. You don't even want to do quests. You can ignore a lot of the quests. Only do the absolute
Mhm.
necessary ones. But, maybe go through the quest line once. But, if you just want to grind, you can go grind. If you want to just life skill, you can go life skill. You can even just
Yeah.
go hunt. Like, it gives you the freedom to do that, which is great. But absolutely, they should definitely look to streamline it and slowly introduce a player. And over a course of, I'm not saying like over a course of months worth of playing, maybe like a week. They go through the main story
Mhm.
quest line, they learn to hunt here, they learn to gather here, they learn how to use their workers, they learn how to enhance, and, just step by step. I think that's one
Yeah.
thing they're really missing.
Yeah. No, I agree. They definitely needed to do that. It's like you said, it's not that the systems in the game are actually complicated. It's just there are a lot of systems,
Yeah.
which is good. That's why BDO is so, one of the things that makes BDO so great. A lot of different content, a lot of different systems. But when you have them just pre-built into the game and the player has access to all of it immediately
Yeah.
with no streamlining. But that's the thing too, right? Like, even I don't think the play I don't think the play is to have like quests that even introduce you to them in the beginning. Then it just feels like you're playing this super
Yeah.
long 10-hour tutorial. I'm like,
Absolutely.
bro, like, what the fuck? Like, I can learn these in time, right? So I just think it's better. Like, BDO is fun because the combat is great. It's open world, the characters look good. So just let that be the initial experience. And, for the first 10, 20 hours of gameplay, streamline it so that, they go through the quest line, they're doing their fair share of combat. It's very simple. And then they upgrade their gear. And once that's done, it's like, all right, you can throw them in the wild, or you can give them the options to learn certain systems. I don't think they need to walk through. I don't think they need to walk every player through like every single system. I think that would be
Right.
a little bit too difficult.
Yeah. Maybe
Maybe,
optionals. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's one thing. Like you said, you don't want it to feel like a 10-hour tutorial. It's like,
yeah.
one thing I feel like it's lacking is I know there's a story, and people always correct me. They're like, it's actually pretty good if you take the time to read it. But I'm like, I don't want to read it. I kind of want, I just want to play my game here, you know?
Nobody,
But
yeah. Okay, so people that have that take are just they're usually it's from people that already understand the game,
yeah, yeah.
right? That's what it is. You see it all the time. People that understand the game have a very different perspective from the person that's seeing it for the first time. And I'm sorry, like if you're one of the types of people that says, bro, just read, like that's just a very short-sighted, non-realistic suggestion. Yeah, of course, sometimes, of course, it's like you do have to read
Yeah.
sometimes, but for the most part, nobody wants to start their journey in an MMO having to read everything. And the vast majority of players that play MMOs will not read everything.
Hmm.
And if you do read everything, it will take you literally forever to complete the game or get through the quest line. That's just the reality of it, right? Like you might be someone that wants to read everything and learn everything, but I can tell you one thing. One, your progression is going to be significantly slower, which is okay. But two, you're extremely ignorant to think that the majority of players aren't going to just be hitting R to get to the next quest, to do the next thing, because they just want to level. They
Yep.
just want to get to the quest line. They're not even rushing. I'm not even talking about people that are rushing. They're just regular people. They don't give a shit because and here's why, because most of the dialogue you read is fluff. My cat is stuck
Dude.
on this roof. Can you please go? You don't want to read that shit. So like as a new player, if you're gonna play a brand new game, it's like how do you know which dialogue is worth skipping and which it isn't? And the only way you can do that is by reading everything. And you're like, okay, well, and then when you start getting to the habit where you're like, or when you start getting to this progression where you're like, okay, like bro, almost
Yep.
all of this is just fluff, which it is by the way in
Right.
BDO. Then you get into the habit of skipping because you don't want to read the 99%, but then you end up missing that 1% and you're like, oh shit, wait. And then you have that person in chat that's like, fucking read, bro. You're like, suck my balls, man. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
suck my
yeah. I mean,
balls.
like you hear like even big people like some streamers they're like you have to put in the energy in order to get that entertainment out of it. But I'm like, listen,
Mhm, mhm.
I'm here for the combat, buddy. But it would be
Yeah.
helpful if there was some more engaging quests which like had a proper storyline. It's something that I've been complaining about since Land of the Morning Light. Because
Hmm.
when they gave us the Magnus quest line, aside from it being a buggy hell where we had to go through days of torture to get through it, the quest line actually kind of made sense. Like, they were trying to convey a story through it. And when
Sorry,
they
what quest is this?
this is the Magnus
Which
quest line. So there,
Magnus quest? Okay.
there's something going on there. You gotta there's a problem you're trying to solve, and you're helping out this
Hmm.
guy, and you meet some other characters along the way. And they even had a continuation of Yonhwa from that quest line into Land of the Morning Light. So I thought
Yeah.
there were some possible story arcs that they could have explored. But as soon as Land of the
Yeah.
Morning Light comes out, they're like, oh, this is a complete new area. You can start out a new character here.
Yeah.
Yonhwa just takes you to the on a boat over there, and then she's like, all right, bye, have fun. I'll see you later. And
Yeah.
then we're doing chores for like 2 weeks. It took me 2 weeks, by the
Yeah.
way, but I just couldn't, man. It was like they don't
Are
have
you
that
a lore
continuous.
enjoyer?
I do love lore. Like I will play Final
Really?
Fantasy 14 just for the story. I do not play for the raids or anything. I'll literally go through the story because I love it. It's so
Hmm.
entertaining. It feels so immersive. And I even follow a World of Warcraft story, and I do enjoy there being a good story. And that's one of the things that made those kind of games memorable. Like WoW is nothing what it used to be, and it feels, I can't play it more than a month or two, but I remember the old stories, all the feelings that we had then going through the Burning Crusade, Lich King arc, and then Cataclysm,
Mm.
everything. Like you remember those, but BDO, I feel like
Yeah.
it misses that. And it's like if they built up that story little by little, I think a new player coming in, they'll find it a much more memorable experience. Yes, it's a great
Right.
combat, but it's missing
I
that
wonder how
soul.
they would do that because like there's so much story that's already preset that they can't change.
They can't change it.
And
Yeah.
even if like let's just say starting from now moving forward, the story is great. it's like nobody wants to have to go through all of the pre-existing storyline arcs just to set up for like the good part. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So I don't know.
exactly.
I don't know how they solve that. But I do remember when I went to their office, they were asking me about Lommel. They're like, "What did you think of Magnus and Lommel?" And I told them, which I feel like is pretty consistent with the general perception of it, which is, hey, if you really enjoy lore, Lommel is like, I can see how some people that really enjoyed lore and story would like Lommel, but me and the vast majority of the people, it was just very monotonous and long because we didn't really care about the story. We were just trying to skip it.
Hmm.
And as someone that's just trying to get through the content and not paying attention to the story, it was just a very painstakingly long. And
Yeah,
they understood that. They
absolutely.
understood that. Yeah.
And one thing is like,
Yeah.
if you compare Lommel to maybe if they had a continuous story where, you started out in Valia, met some heroes and main characters of it, and you followed them
Hmm.
through the journey, you helped them, and they're a part of the gang, and the gang grows, then there's character development by the time you get to
Sure.
Serendia, Calphion, Medea, and there were so
Yeah.
many regions, so much potential that they could have actually had these main characters and developed them over time.
Yeah.
Whenever they drop a new region, we'd be like, all right, what's going to happen to them next? Like,
Okay. So, all right, let's do this really quick.
sure.
Chat, wake up. I've got a challenge for you. I need you guys to be interactive here, okay? Same with you, Pansy. I'm going to ask you and then I want
Yes,
you to
sir.
answer. Okay? I want you to give me an answer. And I want to like this is going to just pretty much expose the reality of BDO when it comes to lore. Okay? You guys ready? All right, Pansy,
I don't know.
hear me out. Okay.
All
Are you
right.
familiar with what are you more familiar with? Final Fantasy 14 or World of Warcraft?
Both, but different periods. Like, I don't know the full
Okay,
story,
that's
but
fine.
yeah.
Let's go with WoW. So chat, get ready, hear me out. Both my chat and Pansy's chat. WoW. When it comes to WoW, I want you to name me. Like we're talking about World of Warcraft. I'm speaking very generally. I want you to name me three three people, three characters in World of Warcraft.
Sure.
Three people. Name me three people.
Any three? Thrall,
Any
Anduin,
three.
Sylvanas, Vol'jin, Varian
Okay, great.
Bryn.
Type it. Jaina, Thrall, Jaina. Let's see it. Let's see it. Let's see it in chat. I'm gonna wait for you guys. There's a little bit of a delay. Okay, yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Yeah. Okay.
Yo,
So
my boys, come on, wake up.
they're
They're like, we're
slipping over.
grinding. Okay, Invoker.
They are.
This guy.
That's true.
This guy.
Have you, by the way, okay, so a little side nugget here. We'll give them time to type. Little side nugget here. Try this next time. What I'll do is like when my chat is going slow, because BDO chats go slow because people grind, right?
Hell
I'll
yeah.
ask my chat, try this next time. I'll say this. I'll be like, hey guys, do me a huge favor. And I'll wait for people to get their attention. I'm like, yo, can you guys do me a huge solid? I want, if you're grinding right now, do me a favor and just quickly just take 2 seconds to type X in chat. Let me see where my grinders are at. And the chat just fucking fills with X's. You're like,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
you're out there. You're out there. Look. Look, it's going. There it is. So, okay. All right. So now, okay. So I'm not surprised. Let me ask. Look at your chat.
They're
starting to
like,
wake up.
hold
Look at
on,
this.
let me run away
Yeah.
from the mob. They're gonna. I don't want to
Yeah.
die and lose the crystals. No, you guys are
That's
good.
right.
The
Yeah.
grinders
So
are
okay.
there.
So okay, you guys just name those characters, right? Now do me a favor. Name me any. It doesn't matter what kind of character they are. Name me three characters in Black Desert Online.
Elezra or whatever her name is. I can't even type her name, man. I don't even know how to spell it. Then you got
For
Yonwa and
me, I'm
Magnus.
thinking Trainin Underfoe. I'm thinking Trainin.
Igor Bartol.
Igor Bertali, Fugar, Jordan, Fugar, Ellie.
Oh my god,
Melissa Brady.
I called him Magnus. No, that's Wuju.
Wuju
You're right.
Magnus, Wuju,
Oh
Dev,
shoot.
Jatina,
I can't.
Obi.
I can't, okay?
Okay, so all the NPCs that you're seeing people type right now,
Yeah.
they're NPCs that we interact with. Like like seriously, the most iconic character for me. Like if you had to make like if you and I were in charge of hosting an event for BDO and we had to have someone come in and cosplay, you know who's gonna be at the top of my list?
And live as
Fucking
Iger
Trainin.
Bartali. Training, really.
Train Underfoot, like I just think if Training
Hey.
Underfoe, the fucking guy,
Oh,
the Heidel
right.
Heidel
Dude,
storage guy, like
we got
I'm thinking
goblins
those
everywhere.
people. Yeah, like they're
Bro.
not there's no story characters. There is no lore. That right there is proof that there
Yeah.
are no iconic story characters that represent BDO. They're just NPCs that we're familiar with because we interact with them every fucking day.
Now, Canon, I know it's
Ugar, yeah.
if we were to
Mhm.
tell them, hey, just do XYZ, it'd be like, all right, listen, the game's already progressed so far and so long, so much story already. How do we just insert this in? And, I think they need to catch people up. So I always thought, how about they make, hire a studio and have them
Mhm.
develop a manhwa? We have the story. We have a bunch of tiny little story arcs. They could start
Mhm.
printing those out and get everyone caught up and then start something new, a new journey, and then
Interesting.
slowly work towards it. Like, we're
Mhm.
starting out in Valia and slowly replace that one, that
Mhm.
storyline. Then they can, replace the next one and the next one over time. But,
Mhm.
I think they need to catch up the community at this point because I don't know what the hell's
Yeah,
going on.
yeah, I feel you there. I don't know, man, to be honest, because I sometimes I look at this from the perspective of the devs as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you have a team, you have resources. Time is very precious. For me, it's like the first question I ask is how much of our player base gives a shit about lore? How much of the player base in MMOs are like the player base that we don't have that we're trying to attract towards our game? How
Mm-hmm.
many of them give a shit about lore? If we were to hit the home run in a best case scenario
Right.
and the lore is amazing, what is it going to transform a game? I don't think there's enough there to focus attention and effort into lore, unfortunately. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this is obviously easy for me to say as someone that doesn't give a shit about lore. I would love to, like especially when you're at the end game. Everyone in the beginning of an MMO, they want to, that vertical prog, but then like, when you get to the end game and you're kind of hard capped and you're just like, okay, I wouldn't mind this going back and watching the story again, and
Yeah, yeah.
obviously there's plenty of people that like the story as they go through, but I feel like that's not where the biggest W would come from with
Mm-hmm.
BDO. I genuinely believe the biggest W for BDO to take it to another level would be to focus on meaningful, solid, good PvE content that isn't just grinding. And after coming back to the game after so many years and experiencing the new grinding, I don't think grinding is the same now as it was back in the day.
Yeah.
It is the same, like you're doing the same thing, but it's just way more fine-tuned and it's a way better experience. Like I could see, okay, they focus on grinding content and you know what? They knocked it out the park. Like keep doing that because the vast majority of the BDO players enjoy grinding content or are used to it or don't want it to change, or not the vast majority, but like a good amount of people in the community.
Sure.
But I think if they started to add other things to, like if they improve the new player experience and they improve the PvE, then this game could go like take it to another level,
Yeah.
honestly.
I mean, Line of the Morning
Yeah.
Light looks so exciting for the PvE content, but then once I actually did it and I couldn't open up the menu anymore, once I realized what happened, oh, you can only do it 5 times a week. I'm like,
Mhm. Mhm.
all that effort. Like,
Right.
they could have done so much
Right.
more with it, but it is a good starting point. I'm glad they took that first step and,
Mm.
just from a development perspective, I'm sure they learned a lot from the whole process of making it, and hopefully in the future they
Yeah.
can give us more content like that, more content that we can engage in with a longer period of time. I'm really not a fan of this limitations they like to put on us. All right, you're capped with 5 bosses a week. All right, new content, War of Roses every 2 weeks, 2 hours. But it's like, I understand the perspective they're trying to come from, but at the same time,
Mhm.
it's like the game is a very grindy game. So we've
Yeah.
already been through a lot of grind. Even new players, they're already in the grind and they're like, hey, this is getting tiresome. It's like having a little bit
Mm,
more variety, that's what I'd hope
yeah.
them to hope they would
What
go
kind of variety would
towards.
you like to see?
In terms of PvE, obviously we do have group content, but the way they executed the dungeons, I was a bit disappointed because in the beginning it's pretty cool that there's puzzles and stuff, and then once you do it, then you just go through the bosses, and the every prior after you do it once, you don't have to do the puzzles again. You just have to go to the bosses and just kill them and go through it with a group. Takes about an hour or two, depending on your group's efficiency. That was great, but I think they just stopped there. The next dungeon hasn't come out in
Mm,
a long while. We see that they are planning to drop it soon. At least we're hoping so and speculating. But
hmm
I feel like that was just so very focused, but only limited it to those dungeons. I think they could have done more content like that, and they could have varied it. Instead of a 5-man group, it could have been a full platoon or something guild oriented. Because guild bosses right now are just go tank and spank, and hell, there's not even
mm,
tanking. You just go kill the boss.
right.
There's no proper risk reward there. I think there's like next to no risk, and the reward is some cool things. Maybe you get some mythical feathers. So
hmm
not many people are incentivized to do it. They're like, oh, if I have to go do that, it'll take me a half hour, an hour, which I could just grind and make a bill. So it's like the variation of
Right.
content which people would be willing to do is pretty low. I do encourage people to do the dungeons and stuff. I think they're fantastic. Like from where BDO came from years ago with their, just grinding in the open world to come up with actual bosses with mechanics and stuff and really good rewards, by the way. You get more than,
hmm
it's pretty like at minimum, you'll walk away with a bill. And that's like
hmm
baseline.
hmm
And many times I go walk away with 2 to 3 bill, 4 bill. So it's definitely worth doing. It's just now we're at a point where we're so geared that we'll skip the mechanics. We DPS so hard that we blast the
Right.
boss before the mechanics even come out. So at this point, it's just a
Right.
weekly, it's a weekly chore now. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
execution, man. I think
That's one of the
they
issues
dropped
with
it.
dungeons, though. Having more theme park elements come out, where like you have weekly dungeons and shit like that. It can and will eventually get to the point where it just feels like a chore. That's why it's kind of like a double-edged sword.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
love to, of course, see more dungeon content come out, but by doing so, by adding more dungeons, especially dungeons that are like on a weekly reset, it's like the more you go down that path, the more it becomes like this. All of a sudden, we have weeklies to do. BDO is a weekly
yeah.
game, so I don't know. I don't know where the balance point would be for that. Um, I'm not exactly sure, but I still think even if they did add more dungeons, I still think they have a long ways to go.
Oh yeah,
It's
absolutely.
just the PVE is just it's way better than like the shit that used to be in the game. Um, and I appreciate some of the mechanics that they were going for. If you look at just like on paper what the mechanics are, but experiencing the dungeons and executing the mechanics, it's just I think they lack quite a bit still. They still have a
Mhm.
ways to go. And I'm talking about a lot of the little things. I'm talking about, having to stand on a fucking little thing and the sound that that thing would make to get you to know that something just happened,
Well,
or distinct animations from attacks from the bosses, or um, a little bit more clear attacks and AoEs coming in. Like an example is I remember like one of the fights. It's like you can't. One in some of the fights. It's like it's actually difficult to even distinguish whether or not you're getting hit. So a great example would be Zarka.
yeah,
The infestation Zarka.
yep,
There are multiple attacks that that boss does where to this day I don't even know where the fuck the attack is coming from. I just know that
yeah,
it hits the whole screen.
yep.
So like if you look at that fight, you see a lot of these red little AoEs come up, right?
Hmm.
Things like that good in PvE. Clear, obvious, but then Zarko will do things that like it's just a
Yeah,
regular motion. There's no sound, there's no nothing, and then just everything on the screen takes damage. And
yeah,
you're just like and you get knocked up and CC'd and you take a lot of damage and you're just like, was that an attack? Obviously it was an attack, but what
right.
the hell did he do? And then some bozo will be like, bro, look, he lifted his arm like this. I'm like, bro, he does that for like every attack. It's not distinct. And yeah, sure, maybe this one his elbow goes a little bit higher, but the point is when the attack comes in, you cannot distinguish what it is. Like if you look at what's happening on the ground, nothing's actually like have it on like I have it on film.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there and there's no animation that comes out and you just get hit and hit hard and you're like, what the fuck was that? You know what I mean? Like
I hear ya.
something like that is not good design. You know what I mean? That's you can't have a good solid PvE game, raids, dungeons with those types of attacks coming in the game, because especially if you're a new player, you're just not gonna know. You're like, what
Yeah.
the fuck is this? This just feels like, and then yeah, so that's and the patterns that a lot of the animations that they do have, by the way, that are distinct. Like I think one of the attacks Zarka does, it's you see the smoke come around the perimeter and you have to stay inside of it. Okay, something like that is definitely more clear, but even that, I think the smoke needs to be less subtle. It needs to actually look like a fucking thing, because let's be real here, in BDO attacks, environment,
Dude.
all these things, there's so many effects, so it's hard to distinguish, oh, is this an effect that is damage, or is this an effect from a skill, or is this an effect from just the environment? There's smoky shit coming, you know what I mean? So like make things more distinct, make it more clear, and then that'll be the start to having a better PvE experience. That would be my feedback to PA if I were ever gonna give up.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the particle effects in this game off the charts. I once tried to do Olins with a Megu and try to do a dungeon as well. Both times couldn't see. I had to zoom out, turn down the effects, you know, put the optimization on. Sometimes it is over the top. I remember
Yeah.
back in the old days, like 2016, 2017, when regular Karanda was the big deal and we couldn't just blow her up in like a minute. Back then
Yeah.
we had to actually do the mechanics. You had to look
Yeah.
at her and she falls down a certain way and she does a bigger AoE or a smaller
Yep.
AoE. Dude,
Yep.
those were actually pretty fun. And back then there was
Yep.
also a lot more risk to world bosses because it was open PvP. We had our
Sure.
guild wars. We only had 6
Yeah.
channels. We were
That was
always
great.
fighting.
That was
It was
great.
a different
I,
time.
I see someone in my channel say with low opacity, the smoke doesn't exist, by the way, Omega Lol. And that's right. You're right. So, like, I
Yep.
think the mechanics itself isn't the problem on paper. It's like, hey, on paper, this is what Zarka's going to do. On paper, Karanda is this going to do. I think those are fine. I think the way they show these effects,
Yeah.
like these effects from these attacks that the bosses do, should not be affected. At the very least, shouldn't be affected this much or at all by fucking graphic effects, by opacity.
Yeah.
It's like you turn your graphics down and you don't see an attack suddenly. That's not the way it should be. It shouldn't, you know what I mean? It shouldn't be that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think they should just add AoE, like telegraphs to all the boss attacks, like all the major ones, high damaging ones. I think
Yeah.
that'd be fair, at least for world bosses. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, I was
Yeah.
just thinking back in the day back in 2016, 2017 days, I played briefly then. And I'm thinking like, back then we used to interact a lot. Obviously there was all the PvP and stuff going on. It was a lot more, people were a lot more combative to a certain extent. And back
Mhm.
then we used to group up for Sausins. That was like one of the great spots to grind. But we also did a lot of scrolls and stuff, man. Like,
Yeah.
relic fragments, Cardian
Yeah.
scrolls, Peel of
That
Face
shit
scrolls.
sucked. Back then, it took forever. They
It
sped it
did.
up.
It did. And, we used to still interact back then. And, doing world bosses going to world bosses with your friends or doing the guild bosses, getting that Liverdo weapon. Dude, that was like, you were gaming then. Tet Liverdo?
Wait, hold on, time out. You strike me as a Uria enjoyer. Were you a Uria guy or were you a Liverdo guy?
Once I got the Liverdo, I upgraded.
Yeah, you're one of those guys that are like, bro, Liverdo's such a waste of money, man.
No.
It's not worth it with Zarka coming out. And then you get the Liverdo, you're like, okay, I'm gonna
No. I just had to get it. And then I had to tap it. It took time to enhance because back then we
Yeah.
didn't know anything about the
Blue.
fail
It was
stacks.
yeah. It was a blue item. Yeah.
Like, we knew nothing about fail stacking or anything. It's like, I don't know, just send it. Oh, it was a different game, man.
That was like the only item you wanted to use memory fragments on. Like
Yeah.
when I played on C, we knew like what the future content was, so people were like even more, bro, you better save those mem frags for Zarka, you're dumb, use Uria.
Well,
And
you had to
then
get the
people,
Zarka in the first place, man.
yeah, exactly.
Like, good luck buying
Yeah,
that. Remember gambling?
yeah,
Oh yeah,
I
or
remember that.
RNG for winning your bid. Oh, dark times. Dark
Bro,
times.
you know what, I was talking to my chat about this the other day, but you know it would be kind of fun, like just a temporary, maybe like a temporary 1 month, 2 to 4 week type of event where like we have a season, but this season is like vanilla season
Dude.
throwback.
You know,
Like
if we could,
OG vanilla BDO season for like 3 weeks. Like,
yeah, if we could get like the OG content with current day quality of life, I think it'd be a great game. It was
it'd be
pretty damn
fun.
fun back then, but
Class
I would
balance
play it.
sucked to ass, but yeah, it was fun.
I mean, I was a ranger and I didn't know about awakening when I first like started
Uh-huh.
playing. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I got a bow and arrow. It's so fast paced. Look, shotgun. And then all of a sudden it's like,
Yeah.
wait, no, you have to play awakening. Why are you still using your main hand? I'm like, what? I'm a glass cannon melee now. I'm like, well, this didn't work out. Like,
Yeah.
disappoint.
I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Oh
true.
man. But dude,
That's true.
we've been a bit of a tangent there, but dude, reminiscing
Yeah.
about the old days. That's what gaming is about. Making
Yeah,
those memories
exactly,
and thinking
man.
back on them. But
It's fun, man.
thinking back to like the current day situation though, the game's changed. It's not the same game anymore. Obviously the developments, their approach to things have changed. I mean, it's been a long time
Yeah.
since they added a pay to win mechanic, but all of a sudden they did change some Cronstone stuff. We'll ignore that one for now,
Mm-hmm.
but in terms of like how they've been developing the game, they've got better over time. Like in terms of how they approach class design, how they
Mm-hmm.
approach grind spot design and stuff. So the game's changed, but one thing that has been constant since then is the value pack. And
Mm.
we have three buffs in this game. That is the value pack, Commissal
Yeah.
Blessing, and Book of Old Moon. I think they should consolidate it, bro. Like consolidate
Oh
it,
yeah, for sure.
all three of them into one, make them
Yeah.
into subscription, like $20 a month. Because like I can
Yeah.
just think like how many people are like, oh man, I want to play BDO, but I don't want to swipe and get that one, and then I have to get the other buff and then the other buff. Streamline it.
Yeah.
There's like
Yeah.
no point at this point. Like they
Yeah,
give them
I
out so
agree.
they give them out like hotcakes anyway, but
Yeah.
it feels like it's too
Yeah.
much clutter there.
Yeah, I agree. And they're really valuable too, man. Like
Yeah.
all of them have pretty solid value. At least one thing that has value for it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like, there's some ways they can go about it. I mean, I'm not trying to rob them. I know they wouldn't want to take a decision which would hurt them in terms of revenue. I mean, I wouldn't want them
Mm-hmm.
to like, go through hardships because of our us not wanting to swipe for that. But I think there's a middle ground. A sub,
Mm-hmm.
$20 a month, and then do like a sub plus where, you know that free daily rewards we get, the Black Spirit Pass or something, that we can optionally buy and get like additional rewards. Instead of going that route, they could have done something like, Black Spirit or a value pack plus subscription. Instead of $20, it's $30. You get extra free stuff. Like have those optional,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, have those choices. But I think like this day and age, just looking at those buffs, like they are really good. If I don't have those, I don't want to play them. Like trying to play without a
Mm.
value pack and stuff, knowing your
Yeah.
tax is like hit so hard, it's time, man. They really should revamp that.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with
Yeah.
that.
It's like, new
Yeah.
players, old players, returning players, everyone's going to look at that. I mean, as the years gone by, there's other games that come out and go and die out, but you know, one thing that's consistent is uh, how what do you say? It's like event oriented BDO is. Every time there's a major event, no matter what game's out, people will come back to BDO and get their free stuff. It's like it's great that
Yeah.
they come back, but then it's like, oh, now I have to get
Yeah.
this, now I have to get this and this in order to
Yeah.
play. It's like originally it was touted as a buy to play game with a cash shop, right? So I mean,
Right.
at
I
this
think
point,
they
just go
should,
subscription.
if they don't change anything, I think they should at the very least increase the amount of days that you get for the loyalty value pack. I don't
Oh,
think it should be a one
absolutely.
day. It's too tedious, you know?
You know,
I don't. Yeah.
at least half the time, like maybe at least a week. Or I wouldn't be against, like, all right, you're spending all your loyalty on value pack alone and maintain it.
I'm okay with that. So like the
Yeah.
thing is, if you could get free perma value pack by just spending your loyalty, just 100% of it on the value pack, I think that's okay, and I think there's a fair trade-off, especially if you're gonna keep the other two buffs in the game.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
you're gonna separate it, then it's like, why not at least give the player the option to have one of them up permanently?
And worst of
You
all,
know?
it's like people aren't even able to put pre-orders up right now. They're bugged, aren't they? Are they still bugged, chat?
Are they? Are
I
they
think
bugged
so.
pre-orders?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
haven't for weeks now. They haven't been able to put pre-orders
Yeah.
on some Pearl items, which is kind of sad.
Ooh. Damn.
So it's
Didn't
like no
know.
way. Yeah, they're
There's
bugged
no issues
with the quotes.
buying them with A-coins though.
Oh no, you can buy as many as you want.
Buy as many A-coins you want.
But one thing is, like, the rate at which value packs come into the game is very low, man. Like, always, it's
Mm.
been pretty hard to win a pre-order, even if you had it up
Yeah.
24/7.
But
What?
the value isn't there, right? Isn't
Yeah.
the value not as good?
No, not anymore. Once upon a time, it was like, sure, somewhat, but
Yeah.
they should honestly bring it up to the same as maybe, costumes, or at
Wait, do
least.
you get wait, hold on. They're not like you don't get as much silver selling
Right.
value packs as you would. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're not pearl. The pearl to silver ratio isn't as good as costumes, which
Yeah, yeah,
costumes are
yeah. Right.
important. Don't get me wrong. I don't want the flow of costumes to stop because many regions already
Sure.
struggling, but I think they
Yeah.
should at least be even. But, just thinking about
Hmm.
how people can, get over that little hurdle, because it's a mental barrier when I'm like, haven't played a game for 6 months. I'm reminiscing about it, feel like getting in and enjoying the combat. But then I think, I don't have a value pack. I'm gonna have to get all the tax. All my inventories are gonna be smaller. My storage is gonna
Yeah.
be, more compressed. It's like, I
Yeah.
hate that. I hate when storage is so cluttered that
Yeah.
I log in and everything is full. I'm like, I don't want to play.
Yeah, yeah, really? Yeah.
Dude.
I feel you on that.
It's rough, but
Yeah.
hopefully someday that could change.
Yeah, I think you never know, man. It would be up. I honestly think it would be up to the content creators to voice that and try to make that a thing. You
Yeah,
know,
and we should take it to
I
the
really do.
forums and upvote that,
Yeah,
because that's pretty much the main place we drop
yeah,
suggestions. And remember, chat, anyone can do that. If you have any suggestions, take it to the forums. There's a feedback section where everyone can upvote. There's no special
mhm.
submission Discord or anything for the partners or anything anymore. So everyone has to go
Yeah,
through that. Even you can make a difference. Like, there are things we talked
yeah,
about like months ago or a year ago. Like, one thing you said, PA does listen and they do make changes. It just takes some time. It takes them like
yeah,
6 months, a year to put it into the pipeline and develop it and push it out. Like, they do listen. There's things that we talked about on stream or in videos. People posted that did make it into the game. So be
yeah.
vocal, chat. Absolutely.
Yep. Vocal is good. Vocal is good. I feel like there's so many things in this game though. People will just be inclined to like
Yeah.
push for other things over the value pack. I feel
I don't
like
think.
for
Yeah.
example, Magnus, the Magnus teleport. It's like, why do we have to go down that fucking, and risk a DC?
I understand. I understand why they went
Yeah.
that route, because the world's gotten so big and Line of the Morning Light is all the way over there. God forbid they put it
Hmm.
over here where we could have just
Yeah.
voted to it, but it did make
Right.
the world a lot smaller. I mean, it's nice having the storage being connected. Like, my storages were
Hmm.
terrible, but it's the choice they made. I mean, we just got to roll
Yeah.
with it. They're the pros, they're the cons, but
Yeah.
one thing though, like, recently they've had some really good events over the summer, and I think they gotta give a little bit more of that. Like Crystal Protection
I think so.
event, the Marnie
Yeah. The
Fuel
Chris
event.
That was pretty good. The Marnie Fuel. I agree with you. I saw you. I saw a little bit of your video. You think you're saying that it should be permanent. I think they should. I think they should make it permanent. Crystal's not breaking. I understand having crystals break as far as like a gameplay experience thing go,
Hmm.
as far as that goes, where it's like you want there to be real risk with
Right.
dying in PvE, but I don't like it's a different game now.
Yeah.
Back in the day, like back in the day, crystals were nowhere near as expensive and nowhere near as effective. Like,
Yep.
it's like you use crystals to get a little bit of originally, it was like just to get your base stats up, your
Mm-hmm.
crit to 5 attack speed, and then after that, it was like, okay, you can get a little bit of extra stats here, with some hidden AP and whatnot.
Right.
And then I came back now, and this shit is revamped like more than it's super revamped, right? I mean, this is like significant, like the amount of power loss that you have from not having best in slot crystals is insane. It's just as important as your actual AP. And I was like,
Yeah.
holy fuck. So I think it is. I think it's and I'm okay with that. If like, they're just adding more vertical progression now, that's fine. But if you do that, you need to update the pre-existing circumstance as well, right? So for me, if they want to make it so that there is some threat, then why don't you just do a durability thing? That was kind
Absolutely.
of like my even grand. Like
Yeah.
if I'm in favor for crystals not breaking, but if their stance is 100%, like there needs to be risk there, then maybe you could do it so it's like a durability thing where the durability of the crystal goes down, and then if the next time you fucking die, it's gonna break unless you repair it with like memfrags or something. But even
Yeah.
that would be kind of bad because then the price of fucking memfrags are gonna go up, and that's just So I would say at the end of the day, just remove that system if crystals are going to be this expensive. It's insanely expensive. It's crazy.
Yeah. If we had to meet in a middle ground with, them wanting to put the risk there and, us not wanting it, I mean, they could
Hmm.
probably do the durability thing, but maybe repair materials could be, one of those many items which are just sitting on the marketplace, give
Yeah.
life to more economy, give it to the
Yeah.
processors, give it to the alchemist,
Sure.
I think they could work it in. So like, you could either make there's a random chance of one of the crystals like becoming inactive, and in order to reactivate it you have to use an item, or durability bars, whichever. But there's a game, which one was it? I think it was RuneScape, where quest
Hmm.
items were really good. Like, we used to get the fighter's torso from Barbarian Assault, or the fire cape from doing Jad, and other quest related items as well, which when you get killed by a player, they didn't drop for them. They used to make it so that they drop on the floor, you'd run back and pick it up.
Hmm.
But because they were so good, like the full void outfit and stuff, they were so good, so powerful, and builds or entire account builds were revolving around those items. They said, you know what? If you die in PvP, you'll keep your item, but it's going to be inactive and you have to pay silver in order to repair it. So it turned into a gold sink. So,
Mm.
and it would drop silver for the player who killed you as well, because people would wear it so the other guy
Right.
wouldn't get anything. So like,
Right.
if it became inactive, like a crystal becoming inactive, we had to go and throw silver at it. That's not like 6 billion. I think that could be fair. I mean, it's
Yes,
something,
it's
something.
steep. Yeah, and that you make a good point there. Like if you DC, you're grinding in a high end area,
Yeah.
and you DC, you're fucked. Like that would suck. So obviously, if they make this change, they're gonna have to go back and adjust some things that a lot of people don't really think about, which are like, pet passives.
Yeah.
Suddenly, if pets don't fucking if crystals don't break, suddenly you have worthless pets, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, they're gonna have to do some fine tuning. It wouldn't just be, hey, we remove this and it's done. But yeah, with crystals being as valuable as they are, I think it's kind of cool, this new crystal system. But if that's going to be the case, then yeah, you can't. You got to update that,
All right.
especially on DC, man. That's bad.
And I'm coming from the perspective, not like just me trying to go grind a very high end spot and me dying, but rather a player who doesn't have a stable connection. And they might be thinking,
Hmm.
hey, I want to play BDO, but if I'm constantly DCing and I'm dying, I'm losing XP, I'm losing crystals, what's the point? I had a really
Yeah.
bad DC issue where, my game used to crash all the time. And that used to, make me lose crystals. After I lost like 1 billion crystals, earlier back in Feb, I'm like, I'm taking a break, and I stepped away. And it's a really shitty feeling because they're so expensive. You lose a Gearance, that's 6 hours of grinding for most people,
Yeah.
at the high end.
Especially with PvP being a thing.
Yeah.
Open world PvP being a
Getting
thing.
fed to a
Yeah.
mob and losing a Gearance, that's
Yeah.
terrible. So
That's terrible. Yeah.
it's one of those things like, hey, I don't have a subscription. I don't have all those subscriptions. I don't feel like playing. I don't want to DC and lose crystals. I don't feel like playing. It's like, I think there are things that,
I got
aren't
you.
too
Yeah.
difficult to change that could alter that opinion and alter, make it more
Sure.
accessible for players, I'd say. Or make them want
Yeah.
to play the
No,
game
that
at
makes
least.
sense. Yeah. That makes
Yeah.
sense. I wonder how much that would affect the prices though of crystals.
I think they can work it in. Like, let's say, there are alchemy materials, but maybe you can just, if you want to buy it, you can buy it and repair it full, or you can buy it and break it down into a reagent which you can repair it 3 times or something,
Mm-hmm.
full or something. I think they can
Yeah.
work it in. I think let the it would tank the crystal mark. I mean, I think there are some fail safes they can do, but knowing
Mm-hmm.
PA, they will likely forget all about it. Like the rough stone incident where they increased the price of rough stone, but forgot to increase the price of utensils, so no one sold utensils anymore for months. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
man. So it happens.
Yeah.
So
It does. It does.
is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, I guess if I had to really stretch and make them develop stuff, I think for like a newer player experience, PvP, making money. Because, like, in other
Mm.
games, we can go in PvP, whether it doesn't use our gear or it doesn't, we can progress our gear through PvP. But in this game, everything revolves around silver. But if I'm out in RBF, I'm out open world PvPing, I make nothing. So it's like,
Mm.
I'd like them to tie something into it and do something for that, because the PvP community did get hit recently with the Guild War deck changes, the Karma
Mm-hmm.
changes, and the Marnie realm
Yeah.
changes. So,
I think what they
yeah.
should do, if here's what my suggestion would be to that. Arena of Solaire 24/7 practice mode. You can make you can make ranked mode a seasonal thing. I think that's totally fine. But add Arena of Solaire, so just like RBF where you could do it at any time,
Yeah.
and make the rewards so that you make 1 billion silver per hour. I think that
If
would
you
be very
win.
fair. Yeah.
If you win.
Yeah, a bill. I was thinking like somewhere between like 1 to 1.2 billion silver an hour if you're winning. Um yeah, I mean it depends, right? Like obviously if you're losing, you're going to do less. So like you have to kind of average it out. But if you can get it so that like end game players are realistically making like players that are pretty good, players that are consistently winning, if you can make it so that they're making roughly around 1 billion silver per hour, then I think that's a fair trade-off, because at the end game, you can make upwards to like 2, right? And grinding will still trump. I mean, you're making more Katuka by doing that too.
Sure.
But I think it's still high enough for people to want to just do that, because it doesn't feel like you're wasting time. Because like back in the day, well, I don't know what it's like now, but back in the day, you could RBF and you are technically making silver, but it was so little that you might as well. It's like what the fuck, It's like you're not really you're not gonna realistically make any gains from doing it. So I don't think it should be like that, and I think that would just make sense with you adding in Marnies and the guild deck changes. You're essentially removing a lot of PvP from
Hmm.
the game, and you know what, the reasoning behind it, whatever, that you made the
Yeah.
decision and there are some pros to that, fine, it's already in the game.
Right.
Then give back to the PvPers by giving them a game mode that's worth their time. Dude, I would do that a lot, dude. It would be
Hell
so
yeah.
fun taking a break from grinding and just going in and doing Arena of Solaire. And if I suck, right, it's like you can make it like where if you lose versus win, there's a significant difference in
Yeah.
silver, right? Like you can just be like, fuck, well,
It's something.
if I yeah, if I
Because, like,
lose, it's like fucking 200 300 mil or whatever, so it's like shit.
yeah, like,
Well, for the hour.
I tried to get into AOS many times, but it's always been the same thing. Hey, I'm spending 5, 6 hours grinding here and, trying to get better at PvP and AOS, but my gear is not progressing at all. This is 4 or 5
Mm-hmm.
billion I could have made in that time.
Yeah.
I am falling
Mm-hmm.
behind even further. So I feel like I don't want to
Right.
spend the time grinding out PvP. And even if they
Yeah.
don't use AOS, maybe like RBF, it's very
Mm-hmm.
it's just there. It's there's nothing special
Yeah.
to it. Like win or lose, no
Yeah.
one cares if you win or lose in RBF. No one's actually trying to win. They're
Right.
just going and fighting. Like they could
Sure.
maybe implement like you know the tier system for node wars into RBF, where
Right.
this
Right.
first it's a T1 game, then a T2 game, T3 game, T4
Mm-hmm.
game, and then finally uncapped, and
Mm.
scale the rewards and add rewards based
Yeah.
on your contribution, like how much points you earn by defending the base, KDA,
Right.
CCs or something. They could do something, but I feel like the way it is right
Right.
now, it's like you just go in with DP meme or super glass cannon and just go blasting. Otherwise, it's like,
Right. Right.
and if a new player goes into RBF, they're like, I don't want to play this game anymore. This is horrible.
Right. 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 So just so you know, chat, what I'm suggesting is something like that. I again, I don't know. I haven't broken down the numbers. I'm just throwing out numbers because I'm putting too much thought into this, right?
We're just
But here's an
spitballing.
example. Yeah, here's an example of what I mean. If you win a match, if you win let's just say that it takes you 10 matches. Let's just say that 10 matches will take you an hour. Let's just say for the example for example, right? Um you win a match, you make 100 million gold. Or excuse me, 100 million, you make 100 mil silver. If you lose, you make zero. So it's like if you're winning everything, you'll be making a billion an hour, right? Assuming you're playing 10, you're able to play 10 matches. So obviously if you're losing, you're making nothing. It's a complete waste of time. But if you're winning, you're making money, and then it'll average out so that people that are fucking really good can make some really good silver every hour doing it. And still, even then, it's still not like it's still half of what you could be making grinding. But and if you're pretty decent, you can make somewhere between 500 to like 800, something like that. And yeah, sure, you can give some incentive to losers too. Maybe it's like, I don't know, maybe winning is like 8-2, and if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
lose, you make like 200, whatever. I'm just saying, like, you can make that discrepancy there. You can make
that
that
can be
difference.
balanced. Yeah,
Yeah, it can be balanced. I'm just talking about like that system, that type of system. I don't know what the numbers are going to be, but I'm just saying the numbers have to be something where if you're winning and you're pretty good and you're winning majority of your matches, you need to be making a decent amount of silver to where it's relatively comparable to grinding, but obviously not to the extent of grinding. So obviously not everyone's going to be able, not everyone in PvE is able to make 2 billion silver an hour to whatever
right.
the max is now, right? So if that's like the very upper echelon of PvE, then I think maybe 1 bill being the upper echelon for PvP per hour would be reasonable, because that would mean the majority of the players will be more like around 500 or so, right? So that's kind of what I was thinking. Just the system.
And they can balance it out so that
Yeah.
rating effects, MMR, those can all come into play, so you're not constantly being queued in with someone much
Right.
better. And
Right.
maybe
True.
the higher ranked players are not getting queues as quick, so that instead of the potential one build, they're maybe making like 700 mil if they win everything. But
Mm-hmm.
there's always that plus or minus they can adjust. But
Right.
the idea of being able to progress while PvPing, I think it's important because
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the big draws of the game. The combat is so
Right.
great. Then what are you doing with the
Mm-hmm.
combat? You're running in a circle, buddy. You're running your hamster
Right.
wheel, just grinding, grinding, grinding. Oh, you want to get into
Right.
PvP? Oh, you can join Node Wars. I mean, that's great.
Right.
But that's limited content. Only at this specific
Sure.
time you can engage in. I think they do need that freedom where PvP players can come in and have fun. Like, I don't understand why they have to remove AOS practice mode. Rank mode, I can
Mm.
understand. Seasons, I can understand. But why not keep the practice mode? It just doesn't make sense to me. They have the system they
Yeah.
built out. They did such a good job
Right.
with putting it, putting in all those gear sets and stuff. It
Mm-hmm.
sometimes doesn't make sense to me.
I
Yeah.
think I think they should definitely do something in that direction though, because the only other MMORPG in the world that actually has, excuse me, a player base that
Mm-hmm.
has that has an active PvP player base is World of Warcraft. And
Yeah.
obviously, sure, it's not to the extent of PvE, but that's a 24/7 thing, and it's very like, you have your PvEers or PvPers, and BDO is the only other MMORPG in the world that has an active PvP base. I honestly think the PvE base is bigger now than PvP, but even then, there's enough PvP players in BDO that would want to do that. Like when that season dropped this year, the Arena of Solaris season, it was pretty hype. I can
Yeah.
feel it. Sure, it wasn't that many, like it wasn't like everyone in the world going up and queuing up, but there was some hype around it. And you can see it in the AOS tournaments that they have, or AOA tournaments that they have. they're like everyone is on board. Everyone really enjoys doing it, and a lot of people show up and watch. So, it's a thing. I think they should definitely take a step in that direction. I see someone in chat saying, maybe it could affect inflation. It could theoretically, but it could also help it. We have no idea how it would affect it
Mm,
because remember, this might be a new way of making silver, but you're also removing silver from the economy
yeah,
that would have been made through grinding, and grinding
exactly.
you're always making more. So there's a lot. So you could actually slow the rate of inflation down by encouraging players to do content that doesn't net you as much silver. Maybe it could hyperinflate it, sure, but that's something that is impossible. Like not even Biohack or any of these people would be able to project, because
Yeah.
it's completely dependent on us and what we actually do in the masses. It's impossible to know.
You got to remember, we're printing money out of thin air when we're grinding. Trash loot and
Yeah,
everything.
right.
It just comes into the game and just, it wasn't there then. Now suddenly it
Yep.
builds in the economy. So,
Yep.
I think PA would have the insight. I don't think anyone else could come up with a right
Hmm.
solution for that beforehand. But the idea is being able to progress with PvP. And wow, if you want to do PvP and nothing but PvP, you can do that. You can go get your
Right.
best PvP gear. There might be some
Right.
cases where you need a PvE item in like open world or
Hmm.
something every now and then. Some expansions have that. But other than
Hmm.
those minor cases, if you want a PvP, go PvP.
Right.
You'll hit your
Yeah.
weeklies. You'll go above and beyond, do any open world activities which might give you more gear, but you can engage fully in what you want to do. And I love that
Right.
freedom that you get in
Yeah. See,
MMORPGs.
and another thing is, if they did do what I'm suggesting, assuming that it keeps the same rule set, which is balanced PvP, or balanced as in like your equalized PvP, suddenly you now have a game where, if you're coming in for PvP, you don't need to do vertical progression. You don't need gear in the game. Like
Yeah.
if you just want to come in and you're just a ranked arena rat, you don't know how many people would come into this game for that. I could
Yeah.
definitely see maybe even other PvPers from other games coming in, because what the biggest reason, one of the biggest reasons why people don't go in and play and do PvP in Lost Ark, one of the biggest reasons is that no one gives a shit about it. But in BDO, people are always going to give a shit about PvP. It's just the way the game is designed. It's always there,
Yeah.
So if like that, to me, just makes sense to have that. The only potential downside to this is it's potentially splitting the player base, where it's like people are just strictly just running arenas and that's all that is, and then people that are strictly doing other things. But I don't think that's going to be the case now, because the
Yeah.
game and the player base, the game has come such a long ways, where there are merges between your PvE, your actual gear, balanced PvP, all this stuff. It's all kind of merged. So there is a point. Like if you come into the game and you're like, I just want to be an arena rat, I guarantee you're gonna eventually want to be like, okay, you know what? I do want to participate in Siege. I do want to do some open world PvP. I do want to gear up. Like that I think that reality is true for anyone that comes in, but it gives people an opportunity to come in and just immediately PvP and be like, yo, this is really fucking fun with no super high entry barrier, So,
One
yeah.
good thing is that it has gotten easier to get into like node wars, at least with the new caps and stuff. They're pretty easy
Yeah.
to hit with just Tuvala gear.
Oh, yeah, Tuvala Timmy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think they should cap out the crystals and stuff though, because you need to invest quite a bit. Like most of your investment actually comes from like the other stuff that you need to do. Well, for example, your adventure journal, you have to
Hmm.
do your adventure logs, adventure journals. You have to get your crystal set up.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm okay with like kind of grinding for some of like these, you know, best in slot tier one accessories and stuff like that. Like some of that stuff is cool, but I think especially with how expensive a lot of crystals are, um, there's a big difference between a Tuvala Timmy coming in doing a Node War tier one versus someone that is capped at the same gear score level but has everything else.
Yeah.
And I haven't actually experienced that personally yet, but I've done hundreds of Node Wars when I played, and I know exactly what that would feel like, right? Like you can even feel it to a certain degree with trial characters.
Yeah,
You play a trial character versus another guy that has trial character with crystals and everything, and you're just like,
and
bro, it's not
journals.
even
Yeah,
close. And journals, right? Journals are big, right? So
yeah.
I think for Node War, I think for specifically for like tier one, and maybe not remove it completely, but like nerf that too to a certain degree to try and, because if you're already trying to equalize that
Yeah.
shit, you
I
might
would
as well equalize
I
it a
would
little
say
bit
cap it out for
more.
tier 1 specifically, because then you have tier 2, 3, 4, and everything else,
Yeah,
right? You can still use it. Just
yeah,
for tier 1, just that entry level. I'd say cap it out a
yeah,
hard, like 100%. Like,
yeah,
it's nice though that those are attainable. Like I always tell people in seasonal, they're like, "What else can I do?" I'm like, "Journals." They're like, "But I don't want to." I'm like,
yeah.
"Do
It's so
it."
long.
It is, but it's like,
It's insane.
you're grinding for silver to upgrade your gear. You're grinding the journal to get that APDP. I'm like, I'm trying to
Sure.
convince them, just do it. I know it's
HP.
bad.
Yeah,
It's just like, a chore at the end of the day, but
yeah,
it's progression. Like it's not just getting full Tuvala. You can work on your
yeah.
crystals, you can work on your journals, your individual
Hmm.
class skill. There's still things they can do.
This is my chat tells me that I'm full of shit, but I actually like the journals. I like having that type of content in an MMORPG, horizontal content. I just think specifically how it's applied to tier one node wars,
Mm.
it should be equalized or normalized. That's what I
Have you
think.
guys started doing T1s yet?
No, we're planning on doing it when I get back from TwitchCon.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, the biggest issue with me though is the time zone because
Yeah,
it's
it's
it's in the worst time for
Degen
me.
hour for you. What is it, like 3 a.m. or something?
Well, it's actually at a reasonable time. It's just with my stream schedule, it's impossible. So it's like it's actually I think like 10
Oh, okay.
o'clock
Okay.
a.m. for me. The problem
Gotcha.
is I stream till late and I work. Well, I've been like my work usually starts at like 1 p.m.
Mm,
and I wake up at like noon because I live right next to my work,
gotcha.
because I go to bed at like 5 or 6, 7, 8 sometimes. So like that 10 a.m. window, that 10 a.m. window for me, local time that
Mm.
is like the worst.
Are there any T1s
So
on Fridays? Because like NA Friday would be like Saturday morning for you, right?
yeah, but
Friday
like
night.
I stream, it's the same
Okay.
thing because I stream till like right now it's
Oh, gotcha.
3:21 and
Gotcha. Gotcha.
I'm not gonna be in bed for another like 3, 4 hours,
Subathon?
so yeah, I don't know. We're figuring it out. We're
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
figuring it out. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's
What about you?
exciting, man.
Did you find a guild?
After the whole thing that happened with Reforged, I was in Reforged, so I was doing Node Wars with
Yeah.
them, but I haven't joined a new guild yet. I've been meaning to reach out to people. I've just been busy IRL, so haven't
Yeah,
been
yeah, yeah, I feel
able
you.
to, but I'll try to get into something soon. Anyway, dude, hey,
Yeah.
it's been great chatting with you. I mean, getting your
Yeah.
experience on this, it's great. Like you got a full different perspective of the game than me, someone who's just been trudging along. It's like I don't want to do it,
Yeah.
but I'm still here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely way more fresh for me. Um, I think if you start playing other MMO, not you personally, but just in general,
Yeah,
if you play other MMOs, I think you'll learn to appreciate what BDO has a little bit more, just in
yeah,
terms of
true.
content. Every game is grindy. I originally quit BDO because BDO was a different game back when I
Right.
played at the end game. I was one of the guys that was like really geared for the time, and it got to the point where I literally sat down and broke the math down. I did the math and
Mm-hmm.
I figured out realistically how much silver I can make per hour,
Mm-hmm.
how much silver each tap's going to cost me, how many taps it's going to realistically take me as an average probable case. And the numbers just didn't make
Yeah.
sense for me to continue playing, mainly because what I had to do to make that silver, like what I was doing, it was extremely boring for me. Because like I said, it was like different end game content back then
Yeah.
versus like now. Um, and I was like, yeah, I can't do it. So like coming back to the game, sure, I'm not at hard cap yet, and I know I'm gonna feel the burnout when I get there. I know this. Like I've played there, I've been there, I know what to expect. But there's way more now. It's way more
Right.
polished, and the convenience, everything is just so much better now for that to be worth just taking my time and doing. Because especially as a content creator, it's like I'm never gonna have time to play this game 12 hours a day. It's just not possible. And if I do, it's on stream. And as you know, 12 hours on stream isn't the same as 12 hours I'm hard grinding, I'm playing, I'm focusing on myself, right? So yeah, I'm just enjoying it, man. I'm looking forward to trying other MMOs that come out. But right now, yeah, I'm just enjoying it, dude.
Dude, that's great. I mean, BDO, it's a beautiful game, but you know, it's what you make of it. I mean, the game's not gonna handhold you through having fun. You have to
Yeah.
find your own fun. You got to find your own purpose, what you enjoy in the game. You got to surround yourself with like-minded individuals. Join a good guild. I tell people all the time, if you're in a dead guild,
Yeah.
go join an active guild where people are, you know,
Yeah.
into the grind, doing the same activities as you and having a good time, because you have to make those memories yourself. The game's not going to force you to go have fun.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
any MMORPG. So, you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
for all the good and the bad, I think, you know, we can appreciate the fact that it's gotten better over the years, at least, you know, in certain aspects, and PA's striving to make it a better game. And
Yeah.
sure, they make some controversial changes at times, but overall, in the long run, they're trying to improve it. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's a risk they take,
Hmm.
but you know, let's see how it plays out, and hopefully, we're still playing for many years to come. I mean, within reason. I don't want to be here grinding for my hard cap still.
How how many years have you been playing again?
I started playing. Played a bit initially in 2017, but
Okay.
I dabbled a little 2016, 2017, but I started playing in 2020, and I've been on and off. Like there's times I take
Mm.
like 3 to 6 months break off the game and stuff, or
Okay. Right.
just
Right.
just get on for the streaming and YouTube or something. But
Yeah.
I did the math as well, and it was a mistake. Guys, don't do the math. Just send it, because it's not looking pretty. Like even if I'm just buying everything, that's still hundreds and hundreds of hours. So that's my mental block with whenever it comes to
Hmm.
certain games. It's like the
Yeah.
sheer number of hours where I'm not doing anything meaningful. I'm just running in a circle. So it's like
Running in a circle. That's right.
if you told me I had to raid, that would be a different thing. Like I'll put in the hours to
Yeah.
raid, but
Yeah. It's
you
different.
know,
I would love to see. I would love to see raids in BDO if they
I
can get a good design.
I would limit it to guilds. I would limit it to like guild rates, 20 man, 50 man, and maybe a
That would be
100
fun.
man, and
Yeah.
just yes up like you do for Node War, and have like different
Hmm.
types, add mechanics, add the need for guild composition. Easier said than
Mm.
done, but
Easier
it
said than
would be
done. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
Yeah, hopefully someday we'll see something like that. But you know,
Yeah.
right now more roses are on the horizon. Let's see how that plays out.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Yes,
It's
sir.
it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure talking to you
Yeah.
and chat.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, both chats. You guys are great. Really appreciate everyone.
Thank you, chat. Damn, that went an hour and almost an hour and a half. Holy shit. That went by quick.
We're having fun, man.
Yeah, man. It did. Yeah, Pansy, I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Am I gonna see this on YouTube or is this just
Yeah,
a
dude.
Twitch thing?
I'll put it on YouTube. You
Okay.
know, I'll try to get the trim out and get it on either today or tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Get on
Yeah,
that grind, man. I love it.
dude. It's like until now, like when I was working, I had to
Uh-huh.
start my streaming or YouTubing at like 10:30 at night, and I'd go to
Yeah.
like 1 to 3 or something. Then I'd wake up for
Yeah.
work again. I couldn't, man. It was too much. But now I have the time, so I'm trying to
Yeah.
put some
For
focused
sure.
effort into it.
When you have the time, take
Yeah,
advantage of it, man. For sure.
absolutely,
Good luck, man. Well,
absolutely.
if you have any questions, or if you ever need any input or anything, just let me know. I'd be happy
Awesome.
to help out if I
Absolutely,
can
dude. And if
in
you
any
need
way.
any help with BDO, you know, don't hesitate to ask.
I will. I will.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, man. Thank
All right.
you.
Take it easy, dude. Until next
See you,
time.
man.
You have a good one.
See you, chat. Bye.